As you know, there have been 2 assassination attempts on my life that we know of, and they may or may not involve, but possibly do, Iran. But I don't really know, can't be sure, because in the first case in Butler, Pennsylvania, great place, and we're going back to Butler, by the way. We're going to go back and finish our speech.
President Trump remains undeterred by the recent attempts on his life, saying he plans to return to Butler for a rally on October 5th. Meanwhile, the House task force on the first assassination attempt of former President Trump will hold its first public hearing tomorrow, just over 2 months after the attack in Butler, Pennsylvania.
The hearing will focus on the Secret Service's reliance on state and local law enforcement. Joining us now, the chairman of that task force, Pennsylvania Congressman, the one, the only Mike Kelly. Congressman, good to see you. We appreciate it. So, listen,
Thanks, Sean.
Again, we read the Senate report. What do we expect to learn tomorrow from the hearing you're going to hold for the public to see and hear your witnesses?
I think the first thing the public is going to hear, they're going to hear from local law enforcement. The first people to be blamed for something going wrong that day was local law enforcement, which nothing could be further from the truth. The next question comes back to, okay, fine. If that wasn't the situation, what was the situation? And I think there's nothing stronger than the truth. And I don't think in the country we live, the people that we represent, that the American people aren't strong enough to hear where we failed, and that we don't accept that, and we don't accept excuses for things that go wrong. We want to hear how you're going to fix it the next time. And in this case, October the 5th, President Trump is coming back to Butler, Pennsylvania, to the same place he was at on July 13th. Just to show the people he is as strong. Yeah, this guy's stronger than 10 acres of garlic. I love having him where he is. We need a leader that is that strong and not somebody that doesn't know where they're going next. So listen, I'm really looking forward to tomorrow, because the American people are going to hear firsthand from the law enforcement people that were on the ground that day. And what they're going to hear more than anything else is the failure for preparation. Once the site was selected, everything was turned over to the Secret Service. And the question comes from that point on, how did you get ready for July 13th?
No one was in charge at the scene, and no one was in charge of the chain of command. And I'm paraphrasing something that Paul Morrow has said. And that raises the issue. The American people, because they understand, everyone, the very seriousness of what has happened to President Trump, not once, but twice, they want to see some change. Begs the question, why is Ronald Rowe running the Secret Service when he was the second in command when that disaster happened?
Okay, well, you know the selection, that's all part of the executive branch. They make those selections. We don't weigh in on it. We just we accept who it is that's put in charge, right? Director Rowe has been in to talk to us a couple of times. One of the things that we're going to find out tomorrow, the one thing that they did not have to worry about that day, and I'm talking about Secret Service, they did not have to worry about the competence of local law enforcement. The incompetence is on the other side. But the Secret Service and the people who we rely on, the elite group, dropped the ball that day in a lot of different ways. And I think the American people are going to look at that, and you can count on your hands, say, well, wait a minute, you didn't have this, you weren't able to communicate, you didn't have drones, you didn't have traffic control, you didn't have any of these things in place, and you didn't realize it until 11 minutes after 6 on July 13th? I don't buy that.
It's shameful. All right, let's move on to this, because it's not just the domestic nut jobs trying to kill the former president. Trump's campaign says they've been briefed on, quote, real and specific threats from Iran to assassinate Donald Trump. Trump telling a crowd in North Carolina today how he would handle the threats if he were in office.
If I were the president, I would inform the threatening country, in this case Iran, that if you do anything to harm this person, we are going to blow your largest cities and the country itself to smithereens.
So, Congressman, I want to hear your response on Iran, but also I wonder if our government's given us a misdirection, because it was 2 U.S. citizens that tried to assassinate Donald Trump. It's U.S. agencies that are stonewalling your committee, the whole Congress, and it's the Secret Service who failed to protect Donald Trump, and all of a sudden we're talking about Iran.
Well, I guess you can point your finger at anybody you want to point your finger at when you've failed. And if you're the cause of that failure, or you haven't stepped up to what the expectations are for you to be there that day and how to prepare for it, I guess any excuse will do. Now, look, I know the Secret Service, and I know that a lot of them are working overtime. My criticism is not of the Secret Service. My criticism is what happened that day in July 13th. You can't throw everybody under the bus at the same time, but you can look at, so looking at the game films, there's no surprises here. They were not ready for that day. They were the people that were in charge that day. They were personally responsible for the safety and the security of the former President of the United States. Look, we know there's bad actors all over the world. Anybody that acts surprised right now to think that President Trump's not a target, why wouldn't he be? He's the strongest guy standing. If you take him out, what do you have left? And we've shown nothing but weakness for the last 3.5 years. And it's not just on the guy who sits in the presidency. There's also a vice president that sat and watched the whole time that was going on. Look, I don't want to mix politics with policy, but I want to say this. I don't care if it's a Republican, a Democrat, whomever it is, they need to be protected when they're running for these offices. For anybody to act surprised now that this could happen in America, I'm surprised that they're surprised.
Well said, Congressman Mike Kelly. Thanks for being with us, and good luck tomorrow in the hearing. America deserves to know, and we appreciate your work. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks, Dagan.